The next thing we got coming up here is one of my favorite people in the marine industry here in the Bay Area, and that's Paul Kaplan at KKMI. So can we get Paul on video? I saw him up earlier. Oh, there you are. Hey, Paul, I didn't recognize you without your KKMI shirt on.
It is Sunday.
It is Sunday. And you're in the wheelhouse there. Where are you?
I'm joining you from the wheelhouse on the Sassoon, which was built in 1917, over 100 years ago. And she was actually the first vessel built for the Army Corps of Engineers to do all of the charting on the bay, long before there were even bridges. And the Sassoon is moored off of a very secret cove near Tiburon. I can't give you the location, but she's a great vessel that we enjoy spending time on with our family.
Wow, what a treat we've got today. That's great, Paul. I know you sent me an email about it, and I was like, what are you talking about? So I figured we'd find out. So Paul owns KKMI. He's partners with Kenny Keefe, who runs the Sausalito KKMI yard. Paul runs the Richmond KKMI yard. We do a lot of business with Paul. KKMI is a great yard, and Paul's going to give us a little walkthrough in the yard and talk about KKMI and what you need to know about boat yards. So, Paul, you want to give us a little intro, and then we'll wind up the video.
Great, thanks, Wayne. First, thanks for the invitation to be here, and a big shout out for Marianne Arman. The ability to give a bunch of folks a tour of the boatyard on a Sunday afternoon and really have a representative of what it is that we do is a tall order to fill. But I think that this video that we shot Tuesday gives you a pretty good idea of not only what it is that we do, but some of the circumstances that we're dealing with and how we've been able to kind of make it all still work. So,
and then after the video, we're going to come back and we're going to have question and answers with Paul. So be sure to have some questions. Go ahead and put them up, and then we'll ask Paul some questions, and you get some really good insight. Thanks a lot, Paul. Hang out. We're going to run that video, and then we'll be back with you for the question and answer session.
good morning. It's Tuesday, April the 28th, 2020. This last weekend was to have been opening day on San Francisco Bay. This coming weekend was to have been Sail GP, and obviously with the economy where it was not too long ago, one would have expected the boatyard to be not only packed, but we would be you'd be seeing a lot more people. But obviously we're now all trying to figure out how to live in the new future, the new, whatever it's going to be. But there's some things that won't change, and one of those things will not be our commitment to try to do our very best for the maritime community, to deliver great quality products and services, and supported by a really, really fun group of people. So let's go take a walk around the yard, give you an idea of some of the things that we do, and we're proud of, in fact. So our day begins in the project manager's office.
Oscar and Renee both are going to be painting Blue Bayou.
Get out of here. He says it's supposed to blow 30 on the bay today. So.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Morning, Chris.
Morning, Paul.
How are we doing?
Good. You?
Okay, thanks.
Did you and Roberto discuss The next couple of steps that need to be done.
There's a little book called Tuna.
Well, the pop support I think should be removed.
So the crew gathers here at the boathouse. The boathouse has a lot of different functions. It's a classroom. It's a place where we conduct our safety meetings. We make it available to other people in the maritime industry. California Yacht Brokers Association has met here. A lot of state and regulatory agencies. But with the shelter in place component, we really like the idea of our crew being able to gather in a large space but still be spread out from one another. First exposure to be on in a boatyard probably comes when they purchase the boat and the boat is being surveyed. And here's an example of a boat that we're hauling for survey. Now we've removed it from the water. They're securing some additional lines on the boat, and then they will move it over down to the washdown pit, which is a separate area in our yard, both in our Richmond and in our Sausalito yard. And that is a really important environmental measure that our company took many, many years ago, where you see a lot of boatyards, they traditionally will pressure wash the boat right next to the bay's waters. And we know that with a high pressure process, there's particulates that get blown into the air, and depending on the wind direction, it can carry those contaminants into the bay. So from a business model, certainly in terms of being compliant, this is the perfect model. It may not optimize every square foot of the property because this land is being dedicated just for the process washing that we do. And so that is a cost that the company incurs to be compliant, yet it's sort of invisible to the customer. It certainly impacts our bottom line. Our Point Richmond yard is really a very, very interesting location because we're on basically a nautical cul-de-sac. There aren't any tributaries that feed into this basin here. This is a man-made basin. It used to be marshland, and then during the war it was dredged to create a deep water channel, and then the mud that was dug up became the fill that we're on our docks here. So our shallow spot in the harbor is about 20 or 22 feet. The main part of the channel is 35 feet in depth. So it's a very, very unique facility from the standpoint of not only the water depth, but also it's protected. As you can see, there's a set of hills to our west, and we know the breeze comes from that way. So not to embellish, but they call this place sometimes the Richmond Riviera. And today, April 28, 2020, we're having some Riviera-like conditions. It's a pretty lovely day. We got a couple of places here where clients are welcome to have a little picnic and enjoy the waterfront here. We've also got a couple of tenants on the property here that provide services to customers. Covercraft has been here for a number of years. And then we have Pete Rowland Marine Electronics is a tenant. Peterson Caterpillar is a tenant here. And then we have Tri-Coastal Naval Architects. And Fred Anderson Woodworking is also a tenant. Why we're able to remain in business at a reduced level is because of the fact that we've been designated through the Coast Guard and other regulatory agencies as an essential service provider. And as you can see behind me, we have the San Rafael fireboat that's in the yard for service. It has Hamilton drives, which are jet drives on the back end of the boat, and they're needing service, and they take some time to coordinate parts and get it all taken care of. And so we've now finished the bottom job, and we're about ready to complete the reinstallation of the Hamilton drive. Months we've had this vessel on storage here, so it's available to our customers that visit the yard and are often asking, what is that? And all I can tell you is that that's a catamaran, and we're storing it for the client. And what they're looking at is the cradle that the boat actually sits on, but different than any cradle I've ever seen. As you can see, it's circular, is that actually the cradle is capable of swinging 180 or 360 degrees. So the boat itself is incredibly cool, even when it's wrapped in plastic, but cradle
arguably might even be cooler than the boat.
KMI is proud to get involved in a lot of important sailing and boating programs on the bay. This vessel here, this inflatable, belongs to the Alameda Community Sailing Center. Cami Richards being one of the incubators and instigators of it, and KKMI has been supporting the organization for quite some time. And here we just gave them a bottom job for one of their tenders. San Francisco Bay is very unique, as we know, in a lot of ways, and one of the other characteristics that makes the bay so different than other boating markets is that 70% of the boats on the bay approximately are sailboats, and the other 30% are powered. Where if you go in almost every other boating center in the country and actually around the world, it's the exact opposite. About 70% power boats and 30% sail. So if you're in the market like San Francisco and 70% of the boats are sailboats, you better understand how to deal with sailboats in a big way, and masts are an important part of that. We have a mast stepping area dedicated just for that activity. We've just stepped this mast here on a brand new Hylas 57. As you can see, our crane is mobile, but it predominantly just lives right here, and it gives the operator a perfect view of the activity. We've got the boat really, really close to the wharf here, and then the mast can be laid off to one side of the crane or the other, depending on what needs to be done. No doubt KKMI over the years has developed a reputation for working on big boats, or only big boats. And I can't deny the fact that we work on a number of large yachts. This mast here is a triple spread aluminum rig. It's been completely taken apart. This is the masthead, and the paint job that's been done here, it's the equivalent as if you were going to lay your cocktail on it. Yet it's going to be some 90 feet away from the naked eye. Next to this lovely spar is a mast that belongs to a Cal 20. So we do actually work on boats a heck of a lot smaller than the mast next to this. We really do have a very, very efficient, well-stocked, exceptionally well-stocked rigging center. I mean, I just don't know what else you could call it. We have a very, very efficient production process. Where we build the rigging is just a short distance away from the mast itself. We have a team of riggers that represent decades of experience and truly are the best in the business. Barrett Lynn being the master of ceremonies here.
And halyards and preventers. So we do a lot of all of the splicing in here. We have two different types of swaging machines. We have a wire Technics and a rotary. Things like new lifelines. This bench is about 84 feet long, so that will accommodate 90% of all of the headstay, backstays, and standing rigging we do.
What you are looking at is one of the very first, if not the first, wooden mast that was built to have an internal halyard. And as Barrett mentioned, the rigging bench is 85 feet long, and this mast goes past the rigging bench. But there are the exits for where the internal halyards were. This belongs to a 76-foot yawl built in 1937 that is being restored, and we have agreed to store the mast for the client until the restoration project is complete. Our marine supply center in the yard is truly in the center of the yard, and we did that quite intentionally. We did a time and motion study, and we looked at how long it took each craftsman to go to their individual project, complete the list of the goods that they need to get on with it, go to the store, and so on. And what we figured out, it's not all that hard, is if you put your supply center in the middle of the boatyard, you're inevitably going to be more efficient. And that's what we've done here. But what's also unique about the store is that it looks a little bit, if not functions a lot like a regular marine supply store. And all the goods, though, they're not priced. They all have barcodes because we're really focused on putting these goods into our team's hand in the most efficient way. And at the end of the day, no matter how long you've been working on boats, there's a tactile component of a lot of things that get done on the boat. And being able to fit the widget to the watchet is something that if you have the parts right in front of you, you're going to be able to do it a lot more efficiently. And then, of course, you check those parts out of the store, and it gives then us the opportunity to really control our inventory. So we know what it is that we have. We have here about $500,000 worth of inventory at our cost. We have an overstock area above, but in the morning when the crew is dispatched, there are 3 people behind the counter here. All of the goods are, as I mentioned, barcoded, and in fact, the craftsmen today aren't making any contact at all with the store clerks. They're head away from them, and the craftsmen put the goods in front of the scanner, and it's automatically posted to our customer's account in real time. And Dave Kendig, who's our manager for store and purchasing. So we really do try, again, to perform every function in the most cost-effective way possible. And one of the benefits of operating 2 boatyards is that then it gives us the capability of carrying a few more things in inventory than the ordinary boatyard might. And we're a Yanmar dealer, so you can see here we have an incredible inventory of Yanmar parts. We have somebody on staff who is a Yanmar guru. In fact, we have several people that are Yanmar gurus. And so we're able to make purchases of better level, more competitive, and pass those savings on to our clients. And the other thing that we do is we really work hard at making sure that we know what it is that we have in stock. So that when the boat comes in and the client is telling us then what they would like to do, we're able to predict with reasonable certainty that we have those materials. And what we're finding, certainly before the pandemic, and it will continues, if not getting exacerbated today, is making sure that you can get those parts in a reasonable time frame. Once the boat comes out of the yard, the owner wants it back into the water, and we understand that as quickly as possible. And so being able to look ahead, to be able to determine what critical path materials need to be ordered is a really important part of your booking your visit to the yard, and trying to come as organized as possible, especially for unique items that you just would ordinarily not expect a boatyard to inventory. We really need to try to get ahead of those things. I got that zinking feeling. Yep, we do. We got zincs. We got bar zincs. We got shaft zincs. You name it, we got it. Practically every size you can imagine. But when you get your boat in the water, you know that it's been properly protected. What usually is a incredibly bustling, busy wood shop, regrettably, is quiet right now. We have our woodworking team working on rotation, and right now we're low on woodwork in general, but it's a fabulous old shop. Over the past 20 plus years, an incredible amount of beautiful woodwork has been generated in this shop with some new age tools, but mostly old world craftsmanship and a dedication and knowledge and a commitment to really do great things in wooden boat building, and everything from commercial boats certainly to lovely sailing yachts. So inside one of our sheds is a repair project that we've just started, and it's sort of an unusual repair project. We're certainly very familiar with repairing fiberglass as a result of collisions and things of that nature, but a fire is something that we don't often deal with. So it requires a lot of care, a lot of investigation, and you just can't go in and make the repairs lickety-split. You really need to be very, very thoughtful and work with consultants who are truly experts in dealing with repairs of this nature. So this boat will remain in the shed here for a few months more, not too much longer though. It's certainly a very, very compliant and effective place for us to do this sort of work. We're out of the weather, we're out of the wind,
We keep these sheds busy all winter long, which then enables us to keep our crew going all winter long. The yard started in 1996. There was only one little travel lift on the property, and actually you can see the remnant of it right here. It's attached to this smaller shed. What you see is a small shed inside a big shed, and the way we get the boat into the big shed is that we actually welded the old travel lift onto this shed, and that whole building, the whole shed, is capable of moving through the boatyard. So we pull the cork out of the end of the building here, the travel lift then brings the boat in, and then we're able to bring the end on very, very efficiently, and also, again, trying to keep particulates out of the air and conduct all these types of activities in the most environmentally sensitive manner possible. What you're looking at is KPMI Point Richmond's mass painting booth. So overhead trolley with cars on it. We're able to load the mast in. We can do all the prep and painting inside this area. Very, very efficient. And as you saw with that large yacht, produce extraordinary workmanship. Our metal shop, both in Richmond and in Sausalito, are equipped so that we can provide a fairly broad spectrum of services. We have lathes and machining, we have band saws and drill presses, but most important, again, is the expertise that we have in both of the yards in the metal department. Really, really fabulous craftsmen. Here, one of the gentlemen, Joel Hulse, who's one of our master craftsmen, is completing an exhaust system for a boat. This is one of the few pieces of equipment the managers will let me drive. Lightning McLean, KKMI's electric sweeper. On board the Lightning McLean, sponsored by Dusty's, our slogan is dedicated to sweeping on the job. Wouldn't be what it is without its great office staff, both in Sausalito and Point Richmond. Come on inside the Richmond office. Michelle Oliveira, wonderful smile behind that mask. And Janice Johnson, safety, health, and environmental manager and doer of all sorts of good things.
Howdy.
Project managers Bob Hennessy and Jock McLean, and Kevin McMullen is off today.
You look dangerous. You look like you might know somebody named Corona.
So thanks so much for allowing us the opportunity to give you a tour of the boatyard. We are open for business. We're encouraging clients to give us a call as soon as they can so that we can start booking out our schedule. We are operating right now with a limited crew, and so we don't want your boat in the yard any longer than necessary. And I look forward to seeing you in the yard and on the waterfront. Paul Kaplan signing off.
Hey, Paul, are you back with us?
I'm here.
All right, we're gonna get your video up here. Oh, there you are. All right, cool. Hey, that was great, Paul. Especially the part with you running around on the little electric cleaner.
Well, that is one of the few pieces of equipment they'll let me drive.
Well, if you don't know about Paul Kaplan, you should. Paul is one of the leaders in the marine industry in the Bay Area, and he's always advocating for boating, and KKMI is a great yard. So, Paul, you want to say a few words?
Well, Wayne, thanks for the kind words about the boatyard. My partners, Ken Keefe, Cindy Ravel, and myself have been in the maritime industry for quite some time. And I think the reason why our organization has been so successful is that we've also been able to attract truly some of the best people in the maritime industry. And it's really a pleasure to work with these super, super skilled, yet incredibly fun folks that understand boats, understand what our clients want. And it's the relationships that we've fostered with these clients over the years that are more than just people that will work on their boats, but they're friends. We obviously run into each other on the waterfront and the boat clubs, and we're boating nuts ourselves. I will be, hi, my name is Paul, and I have a boating disease too. So.
As we all do. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been tuned into us in the last 4 days, but we've been talking about Blue Mind a lot. And it's a book written, I don't know the author, but she talks about why you feel better, you act better, you work better, everything's better when you're on, near, or in the water. So, we all apply to that. You're by the water all the time. You're a boater. You actually did a refit on an older wooden boat.
Yeah, I did. Quite a few years ago, in 1998, my wife and I came upon Santana, who had sunk. Santana, as you may know, at one time had been owned by Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall, was built by W.L. Stewart in 1935. And we undertook the refit of the boat for about a year, and we owned the boat for 15 years and sold her to very, very great custodian. You know what they say about owning a boat like that is that you're just taking care of it for the next person who will be taking care of the boat. And it is really, really delightful that the boat's gone into some wonderful hands now, and she's on the East Coast.
Yeah, that was a great boat. And we were sorry to see her leave the Bay Area, but we were happy to see her put back into shape. That was great, Paul. Got a few questions. Let's start with this one. Tell me a little about how COVID has affected KKMI. And beginning tomorrow, there's outdoor businesses are able to go back to work. What does that mean for KKMI, and how are you guys dealing with this COVID issue?
Well, thankfully, and as I mentioned in the video, early on, we had been given essential service provider status by the Coast Guard and a number of other government agencies. So we were able to keep our doors open, but we were also required to significantly scale down the number of people on site. So while we had a backlog of work and we really wanted to do all that we could to keep everybody on board the team, working every day of the week, we were not able to do so. And so since the shelter in place became effective, both in the Richmond and Sausalito yards, we've been operating with a reduced crew. Some people have been working from home. And now with the release or the liberalization, I should say, maybe of these restrictions, we're now able to bring people back. But we've also had an incredible head start here in really understanding what it takes to operate in the new as a retailer, as a company who does exchange with customers, because we've been doing that now from the very beginning. And of course, PPEs have now become part of the everyday nomenclature for a lot of folks, but in our industry, PPEs are absolutely part of our everyday nomenclature, personal protection equipment. So wearing masks and gloves and doing those types of things are habits that our crew has been trained on, and we review and we work on day in and day out. So we have kind of a leg up, unfortunately, in that regard.
Yeah, it's tough for all of us. Are you guys still doing survey haul outs?
Yes, at a social distance.
Yeah.
I think that our ability to make sure that the industry too is continuing to function is as a part, as important part of this whole thing. Can't just kind of have a complete stop if we can, and we've been able to keep the pace running just ever so slowly.
Absolutely. So, Paul, I hope you don't mind me asking you this. I'm going to put you on the spot. I recommend you guys all the time. Atomic Tuna, and I've been, doing haul outs and bringing my own boat to your yard forever. But on occasion, when I mention KKMI and I recommend KKMI to clients, that haven't been customers of yours, they think that the yard's expensive. How do you respond to that?
First of all, I appreciate you asking the question. I guess, first of all, what do you define as expensive? Boats are obviously expensive. But what's that expression, an expensive mistake? Nothing is of any value if it needs to be done twice. And so when we produce as much work as we do in a really, really efficient way, and do it in a high quality way, that's going to represent a certain value. And I think that there will always be some or organization or individual that can do something for a little bit less, but it may not translate into that value. And one of the things that we really work hard on is to make sure that we're very transparent with every facet of our business with our clients. And so when we provide them with an estimate, it's just not a list of activities and then a price, but we actually break it down hour by hour, task by task, and we try to articulate to the customer as much as we can what we foresee as part of these repairs. But as we know in boats, it's, and sometimes until you take it apart and you know what it is that you're looking at, can you really then determine how big or small that job's going to be? And so that comment about being expensive is probably deserved in the sense that we're really making sure that we operate compliantly, we pay our guys really well, and at the end of the day, that results in a certain cost, but the value and the products that we deliver, especially when we talk about the longevity and quality, I think it kind of almost becomes a moot point. I think it's interesting, Wayne, you were saying it's customers that haven't done business with us before that have that perception. I think those clients that have done business with us before, this was a great value.
Yeah, absolutely. I've worked over there for years and years, and one of the things that I really appreciate with your yard is the professionalism of your yard managers. Bob and Jock are great. Kevin, running the lift and all that. You're getting straight answers. I have never had an occasion where Bob or Jock is recommended to do something that didn't need to be done. In fact, the exact opposite of that is, I've had clients that wanted to do something that absolutely didn't need to be done, and Bob and Jock would tell them, no, that's not necessary. We don't need to do that. So we really appreciate that with your yard managers.
Yeah, thankfully, we've been able to be busy enough that we don't need to go ahead and try to suggest to sell. We really are focused on trying to make sure that what it is that the client needs is being delivered. And if they're not spending their money in a judicious way or really addressing some of the priorities, we're not bashful, and we're very comfortable in saying to the client, maybe we should be thinking about this instead of that. Our clients have been doing business with us literally for decades, and these relationships are really important to us. And we'll have clients that will come back and say, I'm looking to have X, Y, and Z done, but not necessarily this year. Let's talk about next year. Let's talk about 2 years from now. And being able to plan out the service cycle of the boat is an important part of the relationship that we've fostered with our clients.
Yeah, I just got a comment from somebody I want to read to you. You'll like to hear this. I'm not going to mention the name. You'll probably hear from him anyways. He says, super yard, super employees, and it all starts at the top with Paul. Can't recommend KKMI enough. I'm a customer and a fan. Try them. You will be happy.
Wow.
You probably get that feedback all the time, though, Paul.
Yeah, Wayne, I just dropped off. I don't know whether you see me anymore.
Yeah. We got you.
Okay. Well, it's certainly very nice to hear. As I say, I'm blessed to work with an incredible group of people, our team, our managers, our owners. We're hands-on, and we really do enjoy what it is that we do. And we want to make sure that we're also being receptive. We're certainly prone to making mistakes, and we give surveys to our customers. If there's something that isn't quite right, we want to hear about it so we can make it right.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't used KKMI, try them out. Are you still talking, Paul? The other thing I really appreciate with KKMI, I can hear you, yeah. The other thing I appreciate with KKMI is their commitment to the environmental side. You want to talk a little about what you guys have done with that? We got you, Paul. I think we're having a little technical issues with Paul's transmission because it looks like he just froze. Paul, you still there?
I can hear you, but I don't see anything.
Okay, we see you. So if you just keep talking, answer my questions, and everybody will hear you, and we'll see your smiling face.
All right.
So I was talking about the environmental aspect of your business and how much you really put into that.
Well, I studied to be a marine biologist before I got into the marine industry. Did research work for Scripps and the Smithsonian. So the marine environment is kind of in my DNA. But we're boaters, we're sailors, we're water enthusiasts, and not many animals poop in their nests. And so we have a covenant to look after the bay, and we deal just by definition with hazardous materials. That's not going to change. And so we really have to be very, very careful. We're also very concerned about the welfare of our employees and our customers, and secondary or primary exposure opportunities. So, and as we all know, operating any sort of a business in the state of California and under the federal laws has its own challenges, but we're prepared and have always been willing to not only meet, but try to exceed those.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're about 10 minutes over, but Paul, you got any parting words?
Thanks for the opportunity, Wayne. Bravo for you in taking the leadership position and pushing this forward, and looking forward to seeing you on the waterfront.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Paul, for joining us and
Take care.
being in that really cool wheelhouse there. We love it. All right. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for Paul for joining us.